I'm Tracy Harrell, captain of the girls cross country team here at Tech, and I'm also president of the Student Advisory Board. The speaker for our second total person program today is the Honorable Andrew Young. All of you have your bio in your seat, and we want you to take it home and put it in your folder. So at this time, I'd like for y'all to join me and give him your attention and a nice warm Georgia Tech welcome for the Honorable Andrew Young.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure for me to be here with you on this kind of occasion. I didn't have this kind of opportunity, and during the years when I worked with Martin Luther King Jr. as his assistant, one of the things he used to talk about all the time was how important the weekly assembly programs were for him as a student. And he said that in meeting the kind of people that came in to talk to them about life in general, he got more from that quite often than he got from books. But that putting the two together, he got what he needed, he felt. And he used to kid me. He used to say, I went to Howard University in Washington. He said, you ought to go over there and just sit down in the back of the chapel and let them talk to you. You might learn something. You get to be somebody one day. And so I jumped at this opportunity to share some of my appreciation for you. As a former mayor of this city, what you have done for the city. I don't know whether you realize it or not, but before the Braves started winning, before the Falcons started winning, if ever, before the Hawks started winning, Georgia Tech was the winner in this town. I think you helped us realize that we could be a winner. And a lot of the confidence in a city that makes it possible for a city to run comes out of people's fascination and identification with sport. But also, a lot of the things that happen in sport ought to be preparing you for leadership in life as a result of the lessons that you learn through your day-by-day competition in your sport or sports. I used to try to run, and I always figure that anybody that can run a quarter of a mile, that when you get on the last curve and when there's nothing, absolutely nothing left, and when you've got to make a decision whether you're going to quit and let everybody go by you, or you're going to sort of suck it up and relax and keep on going to the finish line, that once you end up making that kind of decision over and over in your athletic life, then in your business life or in your political life, you learn not to quit. Would have been very easy, and I worried about the football team in the Clemson game because those guys were so big, and I was worried that in the last quarter that weight might start to tell on you. But somebody had helped you understand that when you practice over and over again in the afternoons against each other, and when you gave everything you had to give, and coach said, come back and one more time, that all of that was preparation for the showdown and you came through. Well, that's the way life is. I often say people in America like football because it tells us a little bit about the way life is. Life never moves along gradually. I mean, you don't make a touchdown every play. Life is 2 yards here, 4 yards here. Every now and then, 10 or 12 yards. Every now and then, you get thrown for a loss. And you have to pick it back up and go on and try it again. Nobody gives you a life. It's always competition. There's always opposition, even for doing good things. I remember as mayor, when I was elected mayor, there was no Underground Atlanta. And I started trying to decide what could we do to get Underground Atlanta reactivated. Well, everybody told me it couldn't be done. And everybody said it's a waste of money. You couldn't get the kind of cooperation from the business community. You couldn't get the politicians to do right. The neighborhood wouldn't do right. There were thousands of obstacles. But it's just like the kind of obstacles you face in practice every day, just like the kind of obstacles you face in a competition. You've got to figure out a way to overcome the opposition. And they don't really mean any harm. They just don't know any better. And you got to sort of knock them out of your way so you can get the job done that you want to get done. And that's really what life is all about. And anybody that devotes themselves to the kinds of hours that you devote to training in sport, whatever sport, is learning lessons that are going to be extremely valuable for you in anything you decide to do. When Martin Luther King asked me to be his chief of staff, it was seen as almost a suicidal job because we had a whole lot of young egomaniacs. Jesse Jackson was worse when he was 25 than he is now in terms of being determined to run things his way. Hosea Williams has always been crazy. James Bevel was, there were just a whole bunch of very strong-willed guys. And I developed a philosophy of administration that really came off the basketball court. The only way you can make sense in a basketball court is to learn to pass, to learn to screen, to learn to block, to see myself administratively as a kind of administrative point guard, to make sure that everybody gets the ball some of the time, everybody gets the attention, everybody gets an opportunity to get a share of the budget in the organization that we were running. And those were lessons that I think helped me enormously in the freedom movement. That was not really the kind of thing they were teaching administratively at Georgia Tech's business school or the Harvard Business School or any other business school. But it was what worked, and it worked for me and it worked for the civil rights movement because it came out of our own personal experiences. And I couldn't have argued with them about anybody's business school theory, but everybody had played basketball. And everybody understood what it takes to run a winning basketball team. And so over and over again in life, we find that the lessons that we learn, the trials and tribulations, the ability to cope with injury, but maybe most of all, the challenge to stay fit. I almost cry when I see some of the great athletes of the past that have let themselves go to seed. And guys who were lean and mean when they were 20 and 22 who just blowed up to 300 pounds once they get out. Now, if you're 300 pounds now, that's all right. But one of the guys that's a friend of mine, a businessman out in Los Angeles, that was a tight end with the Cleveland Browns and played in at 225, 230. When he quit playing football, he went down to 180 pounds. But he became a vegetarian. He runs 5 miles a day. He continues his physical regimen. And at 50, he looks as well, if not better, than he did at 25. And I think the lessons of health and fitness that you learn in competition these days that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take to give leadership in almost any field in which you choose to work. And what this sports program is all about is not just winning on the playing fields of Georgia Tech. What we're trying to do is to develop winners in life. And so when you put together your athletic experience, when you put that together with your academic experience, and when you add to it the opportunity to meet new people, to sound out your own ideas with them, and before the ACC and the NCAA stopped me, I used to try to help Georgia Tech recruit. But one of the things that I always said, and to anybody that came to Georgia Tech was, as mayor of the city of Atlanta, my office was always open to you. When it came time to look for a job, when it came time to have a problem, it was sort of a home away from home. And I remember a young, skinny, almost 7 foot, 185 pound John Sally coming in and sitting down in my office, and he put it to me straight. He said, look, I'm here playing basketball, but I want to talk with you about how I can get your job when I get out. That's exactly what I had in mind. That the reason for your training, the reason for your competition, the reason for your study is that so you can come out and run businesses and run cities and states, that you can apply the total experience and courage of your life to giving leadership to the world in which we live. Now, I'm almost a fanatic about this city. I believe that something special is happening here. Of all of the places in the world that produced a human rights movement, this was probably the least likely place. When I first came to Atlanta in the 40s, the Ku Klux Klan was running up and down what was then Hunter Street. Now Hunter Street is named for Martin Luther King Jr., a young man who grew up in this community, who decided along with the business community that the only way to make it was to break down racial and cultural barriers and for us to learn to work together as brothers and sisters. He also said that that's got to be done without destroying each other, without destroying either personality or property. He said we can do that without violence, that we want to build people up. And you know, it worked. It not only worked for us in Georgia, but when you saw the Berlin Wall come down, they were singing "We Shall Overcome." And that came directly out of the experience that we have and have been having here in Georgia. When the Polish shipyard workers stood up against the communist onslaught in Poland, they did it without violence. They didn't have the strength or the military power to overcome the Russian tanks, but they had learned from Martin Luther King and from Mahatma Gandhi of India that there's an enormous amount of power in the human soul. And the human soul and the human spirit can and will transform the world in which we live. And I think something special is going to happen in Atlanta. We have been a focus of new business opportunity. We've seen this become a center of high technology. And Georgia Tech is right in the center of that. And so I would also plead with you, don't be afraid of the engineering and mathematics curriculum, even if it takes you another year. Deal with the sciences and get everything this institution has to offer you. And it's almost better to make C's and D's, or C's anyway, in a course that you know is going to help you enormously in life than to make A's and B's in something that you might not use or that you already know. And so accept the challenge of education just like you accept the challenges on the playing field. You didn't get intimidated when the guy across from you was 200 pounds heavier or 3 inches taller, or when he had a reputation or she had a reputation for being faster or quicker. You accepted the challenges of sport or you wouldn't be here. And I'd say learn from yourselves and accept all of the challenges that life puts in your path. Billy Payne happened to play football at the University of Georgia. And if a Georgia football player can come up with an idea like the Olympics, we ought to expect a lot more Georgia Tech football players. But when Billy came to me, it was a kind of impossible dream. Nobody believed that Atlanta could get the Olympic Games. But we took it apart like you take apart any problem. And we decided to deal with it one step at a time. And we decided we were going after the Olympics, but we weren't just going after the Olympics. We were going to enjoy every step of the way. Like you're supposed to enjoy practice as well as the championship game. We approached the Olympic project like you approach an athletic season. And we went through the training. We did the kind of thinking about what could possibly go wrong. We anticipated our opposition. And lo and behold, we lucked up because we had done almost everything we could do right. Then, you know, luck is in your favor. Whenever you get lucky, as you did with that 1 second to go, it's because a heck of a lot of people have been doing a whole lot of work to make it possible for the luck to be there. Luck comes out of hard work and out of determination. And so what we decided was that we were going to enjoy every step of the way, and that when we finally got the Olympic Games, it said to me that something really special is going to happen in this part of the world, around this city, around this school, in your programs, that the Olympic Games will have 80% of the world's population looking at us. And what they're going to find is something different than what they are seeing in other parts of the world. In most of the world, people who are as racially different as we are in this gym are at war with each other. We're playing on the same team. In much of the world, they don't believe that women have a role in life equal to men. But your programs say that they do. And women, I tell you, I went with the women's basketball team to Seoul, and I went to practice, to watch them practice one day, and they were out at the military base where the guys at that army camp in Seoul had won the Pacific Championship. And they were all brothers off the block, and they played good street ball and good enough to beat everybody else in the Pacific. And they were scrimmaging against the women's basketball team, which really looked awful little and awful frail, and it was almost like they were too cute to be athletes. And I went to the guys and I said, look, this is our Olympic team. Take it easy. Don't play all that kind of dirty ball you'd normally play. I said, look, these gals beat us by 20 points yesterday. We trying to get even. And when I watched them, I saw why they beat them. They beat them because they played as a team. And the guys who were bigger were still playing like they were playing on the playgrounds. And again, it's one of the lessons in life that says in our world, we're not only going to have men playing important roles, we're going to have women carrying their weight and contributing to the future of this society just as everybody else does. Now, if that happens, if they see a world really pulling together across race, creed, class, and gender lines, if they see our young people being the best that they can be together, everybody in the world is going to want to be like that. And everybody in the world is going to look to see, how can I be here? How can I be a part of that spirit which I saw in the Olympic Games in Atlanta? And I think that's going to set us on a new level. I don't know where we're going in the future, but I know one thing. You chose a very good place to be in the 90s. And as we approach the year 2000, I'm confident that whatever happens in the year 2000 is going to be defined by this institution, this city, with major participation from the men and women who make up this athletic program. And so I want to thank you as a former mayor of this city for all that this program has contributed, and to say that we expect as a city to contribute to your life as well, that we hope you live here, we hope you find employment here, we hope you raise your families here, because we know that the lessons you're learning in this program are the kinds of lessons that are going to make for great leadership. And whether it's in business, politics, or in academics, we are pleased with you for all that you've done, and we thank you, and we look forward to even better things to come. God bless you.